Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
This team just continues to win basketball games. They are 20-7. They won 13 of 15 games, and they are still undefeated at home, 14-0. The only undefeated squad at home still left in the NBA as they take down the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, that fourth quarter was abysmal. It was super long, so many free throws. It was boring as hell. I don't even understand how it got to that degree, but it did. The only thing that matters is the Sixers won the basketball game and they move on to their next opponent. It was a tough spot for the Sixers. It was a trap game because you're coming off an emotional win against the Boston Celtics. It's a back-to-back. It was set up for failure because there wasn't much energy in the building based off of the fact that I think the opponent stinks. So it was there for the Pelicans to really take the game just based off of everything I laid out for you. But the Sixers did what they needed to do. They won the basketball game. Their players stepped up and made plays. And that's even without Al Horford. Once again, another game without the starting lineup being fully healthy. Before we talk more about this, though, don't you want free money? Wouldn't you take free money from me? Well, I can give it to you. Use the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page for $20 off of your total purchase. That's free parking. That is free parking down at the Wells Fargo Center for a Sixers game, for a Flyers game. I can't say for the Eagles, but it's at least half off. So use the promo code BROADS today and get yourself to a game. The Sixers are the second seed in the East because the Miami Heat lost to the Lakers. The Sixers have the third best record in the NBA. The team is coming around. You can see it. You can see it happening. The team is coming around. You don't win 13 of 15 games without actually finding some rhythm, without gelling together. They're a good basketball team. They really are. What I love the most out of this one, Tobias Harris. 31 points, aggressive, back to the basket, posting people up, bullying them down low. Not only that, he can hit the mid-range jumpers. I mean, I talk about it, it seems like every single recap video about how versatile he is. But he is playing at such a high level right now. They kept discussing it on the broadcast. You are seeing an all-star player right now. And he should be playing that way based off the fact that the Sixers paid him that money. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect him to be this consistent. Just because it's hard to get into a flow with Joel Embiid being the guy, with Ben Simmons, with Josh Richardson. I never thought that every single game he would be able to take it over like he is taking it over just based off of how much talent is on the roster. But consistently throughout the last few games and throughout the last few weeks, it's been Tobias Harris late in games putting his head down and putting the team on his back. Now, it's not just him. Other guys play a factor. Of course, Joel Embiid dominated the Boston Celtics, but Tobias Harris has this role that he is really, really, really taking advantage of, and I absolutely love it. It's like the coaching staff drilled it into his head, and Elton Brand drilled it into his head once that contract was signed. We want you to be one of the top guys in this league. We want you to take over games for this squad. And he's doing just that. He's not afraid to pull it. He's not afraid to be selfish at times. And when I say that, I mean it in a good way, as if he wants the ball. He wants to make the play. It felt like earlier this season, and even dating back to last season when Jimmy Butler was here, he didn't have that attitude. He didn't have that swagger with his game. Last year, you gave him a free pass because he got thrown into the mix late, and there's so many other stars on the team. But as this season started to really get going, you can see the adjustment. Early on in this year I'm talking about, he was afraid to really be the guy later in the games. Now you're starting to see it. Is it because Joel Embiid is getting doubled and Joel is turning the ball over at times late, and sometimes he's even getting triple teamed or quadruple teamed. So is that opening the door for Tobias Harris? Yeah, I think so. But it also has to do with just the fact that it's not Joel Embiid putting the ball on the floor, looking for it in the post. It gives teams different looks. Everyone expects Joel Embiid to get the ball late in the fourth quarter. Well, Tobias is adding a different element. It gives the team a different look. It might even surprise the other squad because they're so used to Joel Embiid getting the ball in the post at that time. Moral of the story is, wow, do I love the way that Tobias Harris is playing. He's being a true leader. You're seeing the LA Clipper, Tobias Harris. I know I mentioned that before, but it is the truth. That is what you paid him to be. That is what we saw when he was on the Clippers. And I truly love it. I truly, truly admire it. And I love how in so many different ways he's adding something fantastic to this team. When he's bullying opponents down into the post. Are you serious? Let's go. When he's by the perimeter and he's knocking down a three with confidence. Let's go. When he's hitting a mid-range jumper. Let's go. It's a beautiful sight. Ben Simmons. It's a little weird for me and Ben Simmons right now, okay? Because I love him to death. I knew what happened in Boston was going to happen, and then I knew this would be the outcome in this game. He would have a nice game. 24 points, 11 assists, 2 blocks, 3 steals. I mean, this is great. This is great. But, and there is going to be a but, because this is why he's so frustrating. He does this all the time. He gets these numbers against some bad squads. He did it against the Cavs. He did this against the New Orleans Pelicans, who's on an obnoxiously brutal run, right? They just keep losing games and losing games and losing games. Ben puts up these great numbers, and it's awesome. It really is, because it's better than the alternative, right? When you play these squads, there's 2 options that can happen. He can either have a great game or he can have a bad game. Well, I want him to have the great game. But he still has no-shows against the teams that matter and no-shows against the squads that the Sixers will be seeing in the playoffs. So I knew this was going to happen, and I'm happy for him, and I love to see it, right? Like, I enjoy watching him take it hard to the rack and all that. But I know the next time the Sixers play the Celtics, what's going to happen. I know when the Sixers play another great team, what's going to happen. So I need to see this against other squads that matter. And I don't care if you think that's too harsh. That's reality. Now, he was getting fouled on purpose late in the game. He missed a couple. Then he ended up making some of the free throws at the back end of Hack-a-Ben. He finished 6 for 10 from the free throw line. Still need to see improvement from the charity stripe. A little over 50%. It's just not good enough. It's flat out not good enough. The team as a whole shot 67.6% from the free throw line. If you've been watching all of my recap videos, I've been destroying this squad for being really bad at the free throw line. This team is bad at the free throw line. Now, they're winning basketball games. They're 13 of 15. They're doing something right. But, and I hate that it seems like I'm nitpicking them because I think that they had a good game and they won the basketball game. It wasn't pretty, but at the end of the day, it was a trap game and they still found a way to come up on top. That's what good teams do. They find a way. It might not be the prettiest win, but it's a win. But they consistently shoot so poorly from the free throw line that I feel like it will come back to bite them. Under 70% again? Come on. Embiid had 24 points in this basketball game. I bet that he would get over 24 and a half. So essentially I needed 25. And of course he's missing free throws in the fourth quarter. I needed him to just hit one more free throw. So I ended up losing my bet. But I did hit on Ben Simmons scoring the first field goal of the game. I always throw money on Ben, or I even saw Mike Scott. Mike Scott was like plus 1,200. Well, it's such good odds, and it's worth a shot because Mike Scott was starting. Who knows if he gets a good look from three? Well, I ended up hitting on the Ben Simmons one. I believe it was plus 900 or plus 850, something in that range. So at least I hit one of the bets of the night. But there were only 11 turnovers for the Sixers. And speaking of turnovers, one thing that really stood out to me with Ben was he only had one. Now, no matter what team you play against in the NBA, only having one turnover when you are the primary ball handler like Ben Simmons, that I do respect, that I do admire, and that I do think plays a role into moving forward in games. Only one turnover for Ben Simmons, logging in a ton of minutes and having the ball in his hands all the time. I do think that there's value in that, no matter who the opponent is. So I am proud of him for that. There was a stretch in this game besides the fourth quarter that was really abysmal. And it was the second into the third. An 18-6 run, and the Pelicans tie the game. Ew. They eventually took the lead, too. But the Sixers did take the lead back right from there. They attacked the rim, they scored, they took the lead back, and from there it essentially was the Sixers' victory. It just got weird, real weird late with all the foul calls and some really bad fouls, too. Not saying the refs calling bad fouls. I'm talking about the Sixers fouling jump shooters, fouling three-point shooters. That needs to be cleaned up, and even Brett Brown discussed it after the game. He was asked about, was it a good win, and look at the run that they're on, and he said, I wouldn't be doing my job if I was just satisfied with the win. There are some things to fix. He wasn't a fan of the free throw shooting. He wasn't a fan of the fouls either, so that needs to be addressed, and that's a discipline thing. These players need to be smart. I know Ben Simmons had a foul where he fouled a three-point shooter late in the game. Joel Embiid at the top of the key did the same exact thing. So I can't believe it was that hideous of a fourth quarter. It was so long. It was like 50 minutes long. Can we please stop? I'm sitting on the couch. I'm stunned. Can this end, please? I got things to do. Can this please end? I couldn't even tell you the last time that I saw a fourth quarter to that degree. The positive thing, though, is they won the game. If they were to lose a game like that after sitting through that painful 50 minutes, it would be a lot worse. But hearing the victory song, hearing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6s, well, it makes it feel a little bit better. One sequence in this game that got me jumping out of my seat, Norvel Pelle. That's right, Norvel Pelle. And this guy, you know what? This guy, he's not afraid. He stands in the paint. He protects the rim. He's not afraid of anyone who is coming his way. And I love it. Now, he fouls a lot, but that's just part of his role. And he doesn't play a ton of minutes, so who cares if he picks up some personal fouls? But oh my Lord, was this fantastic. He gets a big block. The ball goes to James Ennis. James Ennis hits Ben Simmons on a fast break, and he slams it down. The next play, Ingram thinks he's going to be cocky. He one-hands it, tries to jam it, and who but Norvel Pelle? He gets it. He blocks it. He swats it away. Stuffs it, really. And it leads to a James Ennis 3 on the other side. And one. That was the most excited the Wells Fargo Center was all night long. That's where there was some energy. That's where there was a boost from the crowd. Now, James Ennis didn't hit his free throw, but that was so great. That really was. That was so great. That was where the fans were involved most. After that, it kind of died out. And I really do believe it was based off the fact that the opponent stunk. And the fact that the Sixers just beat the Boston Celtics. That's just how it works sometimes. When you have such an emotional game and it's a back-to-back situation and the next night you play some bum squad, well, it's hard to really get up for it. I guess it's really the fans' job, though. It's like it's their job to keep the team involved emotionally. It's their job to erupt and go crazy, to keep this squad playing great basketball. Even when J.J. Redick got that tribute video, it was a little weak. I expected more. I thought it was going to be louder. Maybe a bigger standing ovation. Is J.J. Redick not that much of a loved guy? I mean, he was only here for a short amount of time, but I missed him. I thought he was a key piece to this team. I thought he is a big reason why some of these players are where they are today. We talk about veteran presence all the time, what Al Horford can bring to the mix. Come on, J.J. Redick, he's a true pro. He's been around the league for years. He's been in so many playoff games. He won't be this year, but he has been throughout his entire career. And he was a big piece of this offense. So I don't know. I just thought the crowd was a little dead, in my opinion. And that's our job. That's our duty when you go to the game, to be inspired, to inspire the squad. I don't know if they did their job tonight. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So if you were in the building and you were not going nuts, shame on you. Shame on you. But that one sequence, that was nuts. But that's about it. I don't know what this Pelicans team is doing. There's rumors that JJ's on the market. Well, they just signed the guy, right? I mean, what was their mind process? What was their thought process when they signed him? If they were, I don't know. I don't know what their identity is moving forward. Zion Williamson got hurt. He hasn't been back since. And I feel like they're milking this. The Sixers did the same thing, so who am I to judge? Ben Simmons sat out a year. Joel Embiid sat out. So many guys sat out early on during the process, so who am I to really judge? But they're really milking this Zion thing. I think they might have expected more out of some of the players they got for Anthony Davis, but I don't know why they really would. Josh Hart, for example, a nice little piece, but he's nothing really that crazy. I will say I believe Brandon Ingram is growing, but he's not an it factor guy. Like, you're not going to go anywhere if Brandon Ingram is your guy. He's just not there yet. But if I go by my logic, you will see what a player really is from ages 27 to 33. That's your prime of the NBA. And until you are in that time frame, you don't really carry squads to NBA playoff runs. So, based off my own logic and how I address Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, Brandon Ingram has more time to figure it out. He does get buckets, he does score, but there are plenty of guys in this league who can score and get buckets, but they're not really true leaders. And that's kind of what I see out of Brandon Ingram. He's just a bucket getter. He's just a guy who scores. But I don't know if he has that it factor. Or maybe if Zion Williamson develops into what they want them to be, maybe it changes. But who the hell cares about the New Orleans Pelicans? I don't know how I got sidetracked to that degree. I'm just so intrigued by this Zion thing. Because I think he's this freak athlete who is very athletic, of course. And he can dunk like no other. But I don't know how much it will translate. I think he's a great kid, really. I do find myself finding him entertaining from a personality standpoint. He's a great kid. You know, he went to Duke. Everyone hates Duke. But you can just see his personality. He's young. He's raw. How is he going to develop? When I look at his game, I'm so intrigued by how it will work in the NBA. If it will work in the NBA. What does he have to do to his body? Because he's at a weird spot with a weird weight and a weird height. But anyway, like I said, who the hell cares about the New Orleans Pelicans? The only thing that matters is the 76ers, where they are right now in the standings, who's coming up next. Now, you ask me, who's coming up next? Well, let me tell you. The Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets on Sunday. Sunday's a weird day. You got the Eagles at 1, you got the Flyers at 5, and you got the Sixers at 6. So you got a bang, bang, bang Philadelphia lineup on Sunday. I'm not really mad about it, to be honest with you. I'm pretty pumped up. But I want to see this team continue the streak. I want to see this team continue to win basketball games. Brett Brown has gotten ripped apart early on. They're the second seed. They're 20-7, and they have the third best record in the NBA. Does Brett Brown deserve credit? I mentioned this at the end of the Celtics game. The team normally falls apart. The team normally folds. Well, they didn't fold, and they won in Boston. He's now 2-0 against Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens gets a ton of praise. And I get it. Wait till the playoffs. It's a totally different game when you see a team in a best-of-7 series and you make adjustments in each game. I totally understand that. But so far through the regular season, look at where they are. and look at how much Brett Brown got ripped apart throughout the first 26, 27 games of the season, is it fair? Can it be justified? And keep in mind how many games this starting five has actually played together. The answer is still not enough. You saw Matisse Thybulle getting some run. And I love watching him play. I do. He's just a motor. He's just a motor. I watched JJ Redick in this game run around all the time, running off screens, being obnoxious, just not stop moving his feet. And I always admired that because a guy like him, with his height, for him to make it in the NBA to the degree that he has, and for him to have the type of career that he has had, it's amazing. But the way he moves and constantly runs around, that's what he has to do to get open and to work around some of these defenders that are way taller than him. When I watch Matisse Thybulle, a little different of a situation, of course, but the guy's always moving. He's always running around. He's being a freak. He got his hands up. His hands is in all sorts of cookie jars. I mean, it's just awesome. And then, of course, he can knock down his shots. Gradually, he's getting better and better and better. I don't expect him to have 5 of 5 nights where he drops 15 consistently right now. But even if he's hitting 1 3, 2 threes a game, there's something to that. Where he is now in his career, it's phenomenal stuff. It really is. So let's see how this team plays on Sunday. I always think, and I guess this is the wrong mindset, but I always think at some point they will lose. That's just reality. So whenever a team is on a big run, like they are now, 13 of 15, it's just how sports works. A team doesn't win every single night. So at some point, whether it's going to be against a good team or a bad team, they're going to lose. I know when you look at the schedule coming up, you have, who did I mention on Sunday? The Brooklyn Nets, right? Then you have the Heat, and then you have the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic coming to town. But there's 3 games. Like, what if they lose the Nets one, but then beat the Heat in Miami? You know, it's like they're going to lose one of these games in the next 3. That's just, I hate that my mind works that way, but that's just how it works. They're due eventually. So at some point, it's going to happen. I hate to think that way, but that's how I do think. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know how my mind works sometimes. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe. I will see you next time.